Hi everybody, good evening and welcome back to the porch. I am so glad you all are here. Um, it is a beautiful evening tonight, so we have all the things happening. People are out watering their yards, and one of the neighbors is trying to train their puppy dog a little bit, and just, everybody's kind of out and about this evening, which is great because it's a beautiful evening tonight. It's nice to be sitting out here on the porch and talking to you guys. So this week, I didn't do a video last week. Last week was real crazy with just a bunch of different things going on, and but we're back at it this week. So this week, I really just wanted to kind of talk about transformation, and it's something that spurred from conversation in life group last week. How God has transformed your life and what that looks like from before to now, and just some of the things that go along with that. And it just kind of really got me to thinking that before there was a major transformation in my life, I would always wonder, what does that mean by count it all joy, even in the hard times? Like, what does that mean? How do you do that? And put on your newness in Christ, and just what exactly does that mean, and what does that look like? But now that I have had one of those moments in my life that's truly been transitional for me, it was a slow transition. It wasn't like an immediate change, which can happen for some people. For me, it was a slow process. But I feel like that gives me time to be able to reflect on the different stages of that transformation, to know that's what he was doing in that whole time frame. Let me start with Romans 12:2. It says, "Don't copy the behaviors and the customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect." So changing the way you think about things is so key in letting him transform you. So in my situation, I grew up believing in God and knowing there was God, but I grew up where I feared God. God was somebody to fear. Like, you had to do everything just right, or you weren't doing it correctly, and just fearing God in that way, and having that kind of a relationship with him. And as I grew older and, kind of learned new ways of thinking about God and having a relationship with him, that kind of changed. And then there was a huge pivotal moment in my life, a pivotal event that happened, and I was kind of forced in a way to know that I had absolutely nothing I could do but lean on him and trust in him, and know that he was going to get not just me but my family through that event and that complete life change. And being that vulnerable and completely giving everything over to him in that time frame is what it took for me to be able to just breathe through those moments and know that God had me, and God had my kids, and God had my family. And it was a day-by-day process. Sometimes it was a breath-by-breath process. But we've been able to come through that. And for me, the transformation for me was slow. And the way I was describing it at my life group was that for me, worship and songs are the way that I feel connected to God, and being able to stand and worship and just be completely broken in some of those moments. And then as my journey continued, I would be able to listen to the songs instead of being broken, and listen to them, and then by the end being able to actually listen to the words and know that those words were resonating with me in a way that now I can take that whole situation and I can turn it around and use it to help somebody else that's coming through a very similar situation. And for me, that's the transformation that is just amazing to me. So in Ephesians 4:21 and 22, it says, since you have heard about Jesus and have learned the truth that comes from him, throw off your old sinful nature, and former way of life, which is corrupted by deceit. And then Ephesians 4:23-24, it says, instead, let the Spirit renew your thoughts and attitudes. Put on your new nature, created to be like God, truly righteous and holy. And so for me, that whole transition process, that makes so much sense to me now, because before I was just kind of living through life and knowing God was there and trusting God, but kind of trusting him when I needed him, and then kind of putting him on a back burner when everything was good. And then in that moment, in our pivotal moment, everything changed. And now that I have come through that whole transitional process, I can understand what that means now. Putting all of that stuff behind me, taking all of that stuff off. And now I can come through situations with a sense of peace, and a sense of understanding that sometimes doesn't make sense to other people, and that's okay. That it doesn't have to make sense to other people. It makes sense to me. I know that no matter what it is that's coming at me, no matter what hard time it is, whether it's something in family, whether it's something in finances, whether it's, something with my kids or a job, I know that I can rest and be assured that Jesus is right there with me. God has got me, and he's going to get me through it. And it kind of lets me be able to face life with that kind of sense of joy that they talk about when they're like, let it all be joy. And it makes so much sense to me. And when you can be vulnerable and just give it all over to God and just completely trust him, that's when you can let him transform you so that you can now have that same kind of understanding. And so in 2 Corinthians 3:18, it says, so all of us who have had the veil removed can see and reflect the glory of the Lord. And the Lord, who is the Spirit, makes us more and more like him as we are changed into his glorious image. And for me, that's what this transformation is doing. And it's still a work in progress. And He's just continuing to transform me and use me, and use my circumstance to reach out and help other people. And so I don't know what stage of a transformation you might be in. Maybe it's the very beginning and you're like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Maybe you're in the middle of it, and maybe you're at the point where you can look back and you can see, okay, I can see all the steps of what he was doing and see a purpose in that. And it's just an amazing place to be at when you can sit back and you can watch from a point of joy and peace rather than a side of chaos and doubt and hurt. So just let him in, let him truly in, and lean on him, and he will give you that, and he will show you that transformation.